Hello viewers from wherever you're watching us from. You're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we're broadcasting from our headquarters here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Aliou Cisse, and it's now time for your weekly State of Affairs program. Well, the Gambia, through the support of its development partners, is readying for the National Population and Housing Census from the 25th of May to 14th of May. This exercise, according to officials, is critical as it provides information on population and housing characteristics of the country to guide development planning and decision making, as well as monitor and evaluate development progress. Excuse me. The 2005 Statistics Act empowers GBOS to conduct national population and housing census every 10 years, meaning the last was in 2013. Well, this year's national census is the 7th population and housing census to be conducted in the Gambia since 1963 and the first ever digital exercise. Well, joining me this week to discuss, the level of preparation as far as the census is concerned, the challenges, and what does this census mean for the country. I have in the studio Mr. Lamin Mane, who is a system administrator on my immediate right. Mr. Mane, good to have you in the program.
Thank you.
And also on my immediate left, I have Mr. Alaji Fane, who is head of the Geographic Information and ICT. Mr. Fane, good to have you in the program.
You're welcome, thank you.
And on my far left, I have Mr. Mohamed Bitey, who is a statistician and head of data processing team. Mr. Bitey, good to have you in the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, this is going to be a general question to all of you. When you talk about, of course, census, what is census?
Okay. So when we talk about, we at the Bureau, we generally have two basic types of census that we conduct. Okay. Right, so there are so many censuses that are conducted. But just to start by defining what census is, census basically means counting everything of a particular population, right? So in this case, because it's economic census, so the interest is to make sure we count the total number of people living in the Gambia at a given period of time. Okay. Yeah, so basically, in short, that is what the population census is all about.
Okay, Mr. Fane, Mr. Mane, you can always jump in if you want to add on to anything that one of your colleagues has said. Like he said, he's just trying to give us, when you talk about census, what it entails and all those things. Like I said, these things should have taken place last year. It was, delayed, and now we are here. But in terms of the preparations, at what level are we?
In terms of the preparation?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aliou. Gambia Bureau of Statistics, in terms of preparation, the preparation is in high gear. Okay. We have set up all our systems since last year, and then all the systems have been tested from the IT infrastructure to all the applications. Okay. So and we have been testing this system since last year, and then I'm happy to inform you that all the systems have been tested, and then we are ready for this actual census.
Okay. And like you said, this is the first time, like I said, it's going to be digital. This comes with, a lot of challenges here and there. It's new. How far have you gone in ensuring that those who will be deployed in the field really understand this new system? Yeah,
so as we all know, this is the first time Gambia Bureau of Statistics is embarking on digital census. And then we all know digital census also comes with huge responsibility. This is why for us, we have started the training of field staff since last week, and then the training will be ended on Thursday. Okay. And the training is for 12 days, and then the training is ongoing, and then definitely the field staff, they are really understanding the instruments, and then hopefully on Saturday they will be deployed to the field.
Okay. And Mr. Fane, you want to add on to what Mr. Mane was saying? If not, he's talking about, already, the field officers, or the personnel that have been trained 12 days, is ending on Thursday. Could you just share with us how were these people identified? How were they selected, the selection process?
Okay, if I may start, I will just pick from where he stopped.
Okay.
Because this is the first time going digital, and the 2020 round of censuses, by the UN recommendations, they encouraging national statistical offices to go digital. Okay. That means what they call the South-South cooperations. Countries have done their censuses, and people will take the lessons learned from those countries and trying to improve on some of the challenges and the drawbacks. Okay. So prior to the census, the beginning starts with the cartographic mapping, which is the GIS. As I said, if you look into that, before people are sent to the field, the first thing you have to know, where are we sending the people? And this in beginning of the ending of 2022, sometime around December, people were recruited and sent to the field to demarcate the country into smaller units. Because as we know, the country is divided into 8 local government areas, starting from Banjul, going down to Basse. When I say Banjul, we need the administrative capitals. When you come to the Kanifing municipality, we call it Kanifing. When you go to West Coast region, we say Brikama, and the list goes on until you get to the URR, you get the Basse. So people were deployed there, going to update the 2013 frame, because the 2013 and 2023, a lot of dynamics has changed and there is an increase in population. And before you send people to the field, they have to know where are we going, where is our boundary. So this cartographic mapping was done with the support of the UN system, UNFPA, supported us with the new technology that is the statistical modernization package, and also trained the GIS and cartographic staff on the use of that application, where trainers were services of the Sambus Geospatial was hired from Ghana, and we had this training. And when we recruited our people, we send the people normally in every survey or every data collection, what we do, what we call the pre-test and the pilot. We try to test the instrument and try to see where the gaps are and try to improve on those. So after doing that, people, Sanyang or Kombo South, Sanyang ward was the pre-test area. When we do that, at the time, we wanted to do the census in 2023. Due to some logistical arrangement and so, we couldn't do it. Now, we roll out, we did the cartographic work. And when we did the cartographic work, as I said, because there are many development partners that are chipping in, and they don't want to go ahead with the census without validating some of the works that have been done. And just to tell you that this is the first time the Gambia Bureau of Statistics done the cartographic mapping without the assistance of international consultant to come in. So when we do that, the UN system, especially UNFPA and the World Bank, who are chipping in to support the census financing it, they said, no, we have to come and validate GBOS cartographic work, whether it is up to date to at least roll out for census operation. Thanks to Allah, with Allah's help, we were able to, when the UNFPA sent their regional representative or expert to come and validate, when the person comes, and alhamdulillah, we good to say that he wrote to the UNFPA and the World Bank that Gambia is on a good standing or good footing to move on. So when that happens, then now the other bits start rolling out. As you said, the preparation, we start with the PAPI, what we call the paper base, because before you send people to the field, normally when people say digital or copy, that one I take it as mechanical. Before people collecting the data, they have to understand the concepts and then move on. So this PAPI was done. That means paper-based data collection. We collect the data, people were sent to the field to see the instrument and what were some of the things, the gaps, and try to close it. In doing that also, we don't do it in isolations. We also invited stakeholders to come and look at some of the indicators or some of the things that needs to be inputted. So whatever, if you say you bring in indicator A, you have to define what that indicator is all about, and then define it, and then we move on. So when all the questions coming from different stakeholders were looked into and look at the whole census questionnaire, when we prepared it, after the PAPI, we do the copy pretest. So after the copy pretest, we move into the copy pretest, you do the training, you send the people to the field, they collect the data, you look at the flow and see some of the inconsistencies and try to fix those ones. Then we move into the pilot, which is copy again. So we do the pilot training. After the pilot training, we move into the training of trainers, where people are recruited. As you said, how were people recruited? Yes. There was a link. We developed a link with the help of the other partners. The UNECA is part of it. By UNECA, United Nations for Economic Division for Africa. So, and UNFPA and our counterparts in Senegal. So we work together to see where we are, including even Ghana, because currently the chief technical advisor is from Ghana. So together we look at the instrument and try to see where do we move on. When this application was developed and people started testing, at the time when we were in the testing environment, normally in development, my colleague can get into that.
Yes.
In development, you have to go to the UAT where you test some of those challenges before it goes to the production line. Once the thing is in the production line, then that means you cannot touch it. So after all those things and challenges comes in here and there, and until we get to this level, as I said, people started using the application, the census management system where they do their recruitments. And in the recruitments, you have the choice of your LGA, and you are given 3 different district of choices to choose where you want to work in. Okay. And all the time part of the publication is to encourage people to apply in their own areas better, because you don't have to be traveling, commuting here and there to minimize that. After the close of the application, other people start to look at the information or the data that is being uploaded. We call them the document verifiers. So these document verifiers, what they do, if you say, Caesar said, I have a BSc or AAT or whatever qualification you said you have, so the application, your credentials are also part of it. And the document verifiers will look whether this is Caesar. And if it is Caesar, if Caesar said, I have a BSc, then we look and then we say update. If Caesar said he has BSc and he has uploaded his secondary school certificate, then that means the document verifiers have to choose the right one for you and update. Meaning your score, because we put the scale for every qualification and experience. So if Caesar said he has a BSc and uploaded the secondary school certificate, so these document verifiers will align it, and you see that your score will come down. So this is the case. This is how the recruitment was done. Okay. And then we move on from there, and people were recruited. One of the challenges we had is we were anticipating that we expect...
Because we will get to the challenges as far as this whole process is concerned. Let me just bring in Mr. Mane here. I mean, you apart from Fane and Bitey, I mean, like I said, the census should have been held last year. I mean, he talked about some logistical challenges which led to the postponement of the census last year. Could you just elaborate more? Why wasn't it held last year and until this year?
Okay, thank you so much. Last year, the reason why we could not be able to do it because taking digital census, it involves so many things, and everything is centered on IT. Okay. So first thing you need to do is you need to build your IT infrastructure. You need to put up your infrastructure, like your system administration unit. You need to build your development team, and you also need to build your the security part, because we are collecting information. Okay. So this is why we could not be able to do it in that aspect. But thank God, with the help of
so does it mean there were enough funds at the time then to have this thing in place?
Yes, I can say there was no fund, because IT also is very expensive, especially digital census. It's expensive. We spend millions of dollars to build this IT infrastructure, so it's very expensive. If you want to build those kind of systems, you must have a very good financial you must have a very good you must at least have a fund for you to be able to build those systems. But like he said, I will just continue from where he stopped. Like this day at digital census, we are collecting data with the application. So this application, everything are hosted on our site, on site at the office. So what happened is we develop applications from the recruitment platform to the census management platform to the dashboard. You understand? So the dashboard is there to monitor the progress of field work. Like for example, if our field staff visited your house, and then he spent, and you have at least 10 or 15 household in your compound, and he spent only 5 minutes in your house. With the help of our dashboard, we will be able to know exactly the time, the interview average time, and then the time he spent in your compound. So we put up all these things together so that at least we avoid collecting wrong data. You understand? So and then And then even the application itself, we set up a GPS tracking, GPS status on the application, which, like, for example, if a field staff wants to visit your house, and he's 25 meters away from your house, and he or she will not be able to at least numerate that particular household. So these are the things, these are the mechanisms we put in place for us to at least able to at least collect data for policy making.
And to you, Mr. Bite, what is the implications of rossing or perhaps skipping any census activity? Is there any implications? Like I said, this will have been last year. We are here today. I mean, is there any implications?
Yeah. So I'll first maybe pick from where he left off.
Mr. Fane, okay.
Yes, Mr. Fane, before I respond to this question.
Okay.
So the census process, it's a very long one.
Okay.
So usually it's advisable to start maybe 5 years prior to the activity.
Okay.
So there are so many things that go into play. So it also involves, like he said earlier, involving the stakeholders, engaging them, checking the indicators that they need and how best to define these indicators and include these things in the questionnaire that we're going to design. And next is the proper designing of the CAPI tool. CAPI is computer assisted personal interviewing, because like he said, before we were using the paper base.
Yeah.
Now we are no more using paper. Now we are using CAPI. So on average, if an individual should spend 40 minutes to conduct an interview, they can spend maybe 30 minutes or 25 to conduct the same interview, because the CAPI is going to help with a lot of things in terms of some of these problems, or an interviewer not asking some questions. So the stages involved, none of them can be skipped, because if they're skipped, it means all the activities that have to take place cannot take place. Right, so to start with, example with IT, they are actually the most critical or important aspect of the entire work that we do. From the onset, we have the development of the CAPI, which involve the IT team, because it also involves a lot of programming that goes into it. We also had to develop the recruitment platform and all these things, but each one of them has to depend on another program. And for example, if the CAPI is not properly developed, or is properly developed and there is no platform to host it, then we have a problem. And if we have the platform to host it and there are problems or security problems with the platform,
I was going to ask you that question.
Then
especially in an era when we have so many hackers here and there, how secure is this application?
Yes, so I will let Lamin answer that, but
yeah.
we are pretty sure our system is very much secured, okay, because we've invested so much money, okay, on that aspect. Okay. So because it's digital and there is so much involved, so we take our time to make sure all these activities have been conducted. And this is also one of the reasons why the census delayed by an extra year, okay, right? So just to make sure we get it right. And
still back to my question, the implications of, having rossing a census or skipping, I mean, the time it should have been held, please.
Yes.
So what's the implications here?
So one of the things that could happen is when we actually rush in conducting the census, right, or any other survey activity, sometimes you realize that the tool is not ready. The tool is the questionnaire, right? And if it is not ready, then whilst in the middle of an interview, you realize there's so many problems with the questionnaire, the way it's designed, and all those things, and it will create problem for you when the data is generated. Most of the information you get will not make any sense. And to avoid all these things, you have to make sure you take your time to go through everything to ensure everything is perfectly done before we go to the field. Because otherwise, it's like you're wasting millions of dollars just to go to the field to collect data, and at the end of the day, the data is unusable. That is not what we want, and for that reason, we needed to take our time to ensure we do things the right way.
And yes, Mr. Fane, yes, you want to comment? Yes, yes.
The delay of 2020 round of censuses, one of the factors is the COVID-19. One may ask why COVID-19? Yeah. Because you will understand that the development partners, most of them started diverting their funds to combat the COVID pandemic. And with that, I think one should thank World Bank keeping in for many African countries, especially the project for harmonizing and improving statistics, okay, around West and Central Africa. Okay. So therefore, Gambia is no exception, and as we said, there were, during the time, some people were asking this question, why are we skipping the time? But this is not the first time. If you look at the it should be 1961,
yeah.
but because of the
general elections,
so it has been
was
shifted to
1963.
So
the
demographers also were called, the top demographers, including some experts from MRC and the others, to sit and discuss on this. What are some of those implications and what does it mean? So Ghana is no exception. Ghana were supposed to do theirs in 2020 and they do it in 2021. Togo, you name most of the countries around our sub-regions skips their normal census track because of the pandemic, and at the same time the diversion of funds from other stakeholders or partners that funds the census or put in the technical support.
But what about the implications? What implications does it comes with on a country when you fail to conduct your census at the right time? Is there any implications?
Yes, I think the statistician can help us in that because the implications, I think, you come in.
So just to pick up where he left off, so one of the advice we got was, so moving it by 1 year from 2023 to 2024 from the advice of demographers is that it will not have any implication or minimal implication. Okay. So and that advice was put to use, and for that reason we moved to 2023 and 2024. So 2023 was closer to the pandemic. So if we have to conduct it in 2023, the implications of the pandemic having that effect on the lives and livelihoods of individuals would have been there. So we want to conduct it at a time when we are actually going back to normal from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
And for someone watching, Mr. Mani will be asking, how will this data be useful to the public?
I think I can answer that question.
Mr. Pane, how will this data be of benefit to the public?
I think my colleague will elaborate more on that. Okay. Because the census questions, sometimes when you say census, some people will only say counting the number of people in a boundary or in a
hence the reason I
area.
asked the question. So,
yes. So now you have different models. Okay. You have the economic, you have the education, you have mortality, you have fertility, you have agriculture, right? Yeah. You name all these models. And for the development of a country, you have to know the dynamics of your country and you relate it to the geography. So maybe in my area, let's say in the KM, there may be some characteristics or some dynamics that doesn't even need any support before bringing that kind of support to that particular geographic region.
So there's a uniformity in the questions.
Yes.
The questions you might draw for maybe Upper River region might not be the same for KM.
No, the questions are the same. But
okay.
What I'm trying to say, if I'm talking about the education, let's say education, which of the regions in this country need some support? Because if you look at the education policy, they are saying there should be a school within every 5 kilometers,
exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So now, collecting that data, looking at how many people in that particular region are going to school and at what level of educational attainment, what is their highest level of education. All these are the characteristics that can help the government and other development partners to see this particular region needs A, B, C, D to improve, if you are talking about education. Mm-hmm. If it is fertility, you try to see what is the fertility rate at the different LGA or different districts, depending on the level of details that you want to analyze the data at. Maybe the statistician will come into it. So if you come to, let's say, employment also. Now, that is the big one now. Mm-hmm. The employment. Where are most employed when you say you are employed within a particular time frame? Where are all these people? So now, does this mean that we have to decentralize these opportunities to the other LGAs or leave it at the one place like the KM and the Brikama administrative area? Mr. Bite can elaborate on that.
Before I bring Mr. Mani here.
So just as he explained, so initially here when we started, I gave a definition of what a population census is, but it's not just population census, it's a population and housing census. So what that means is we're counting the total number of people living in the Gambia at a specific time, and also to get the total number of structures in the Gambia, total number of compounds, total number of buildings, for example. And from this, we can also estimate the total number of buildings that are used for business purposes, for example. And that can have another use for our economic census, which we should have later. That we will talk about. And now, for the population and housing census, the information we get from the housing and housing characteristics do help in knowing the living conditions and housing conditions of individuals living in the Gambia, and how are we doing compared to some 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, because we have all that information. Again, on the population side, to add just to what he said, what Fane said, the information that we get, that is the data that we get, helps with in making policy decisions. The first one, as he said, the education, and it will help with educational planning and educational policy. Because with this, we can easily tell, let's say, areas with lower levels of education or with high levels of people that have no education. Where do we need advocacy programs? Where do we need to introduce some strategic plans to ensure that some of this actually change? So there is also employment. There is also to know the demographic situation of the Gambia. What is the dynamics of the individuals that are of different age categories,
which have changed from 2013 to date.
Well, so we can only tell when we conduct the census.
What we can tell.
So, but you realize, for example, those that were youth in the Gambia in the 2013 census, it was about 36%. Those that were 14 years or below, it was 40, at least 40% of the population. So these numbers are high, and with that, it helps government to know where to focus. And if the youthful population is high, and you know you need to create that educational system and jobs for them. So this is also going to be an information for government to know what areas they need to improve on. And there is the side of employment. So with this, we can easily tell what is the level of employment in the Gambia. How many people are employed? How many youth, example, are unemployed? So it helps with all this information and to be easily able to determine all these things. So the population and housing census, though, is a very expensive exercise, but the fact that it's being conducted every 10 years helps in many aspects in terms of development and planning.
So, I mean, when you talk about employment, I mean, I want you to break it down for us here.
Sure.
Who is employed and who is unemployed?
Yeah, so there is, from international standards, there is a main definition of unemployment. So it's called LU1. So the definition of LU1 considered an individual as unemployed. Let's start there. If the individual is not employed, not looking for work, is available for work, and is not looking for work, but is ready to work and available for work, right? So if the individual is ready and available for work, the individual is considered unemployed. But when we take that and apply the same definition for Gambia, our rates are very low because we have so many people that are actually discouraged, right? So people have been searching jobs in most cases and they cannot find jobs. So what people will end up doing is, at some point, you just sit down. But so when you ask them, will you be available for work if you're given the opportunity, they will say yes. Are you looking for work? They say no, because I cannot find a job, right? So so for that reason, Jibo studied wise to use another definition, because there are four different definitions of unemployment. So the other one is LU3. So this is combining what is called the unemployment population with the potential labor force. So by this, what we do is we consider the normal definition of unemployment, those that are available for work and actually looking for work, to combine it with those that are available and not looking for work, or those that are not looking for work but available for work. So when we combine this, we have a more realistic estimate for people that are not employed in the Gambia. And that takes us to about 31.6% from our last labor force survey. Right? So this is how we define unemployment. But unfortunately, sometimes the way we think what unemployment is, that is not unemployment. Because for someone who is not ready to be in the job market, you cannot consider that person as unemployed. right? So when you tell people, example, even 36%, when you tell people the unemployment rate in the Gambia is 26%, they will 36%, they will tell you that's too low, because there are so many people in the Gambia that are not working. But the definition of employment, employment and unemployment are based on some specific and international standard definitions. So therefore, for someone who is sitting at home, not looking for work and not ready for work at all, or someone who is very old and not looking or ready for work, you don't consider those people as being in the labor force, right? So those that are in the labor force are just the employed and the unemployed, and I just give a definition of what
just
unemployment is.
before I bring in money, before I forget, I mean, you talk about the issue of population. I mean, are you referring to just Gambians, of Gambian citizens, or anyone living in the country?
Yeah, so the interest is just the people living in the Gambia.
Okay.
So that is why even if the numbers are being reported, sometimes we hear people say total Gambian population is, like from the 2013 census, is 1.85 million.
Yeah.
It's not the Gambian population. It's the people that are living in the Gambia.
Okay.
Right. So just to clarify that. So it's the people that are living in the Gambia.
Let me now bring in Mr. Mane here. I mean, after all this, Mr. Mane, who can have access to this data?
Who can have access to this data?
Yeah.
I think Ali can just answer that question.
Can I
Yeah, he
Yes.
can.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, you know the open data policy.
Yeah.
So many a time, especially nowadays, when you look at the GIVOS portal, you find out that the surveys that we conducted, we are almost published all of them there, and there is a percentage of the micro data that is also there for researchers to at least validate some of the findings. So in addition to that, when you want the micro data at certain levels, that means you have to place a request, and that request you tell you need A, B, C, D depending on your request. And if those things were collected at the time of either the survey or the census, then you can get those informations. What we need to tell the people that when the statisticians are doing the analysis, the personal or the bioinformations are not part of what is being analyzed. It's just those indicators or those models that are being analyzed to say that the characteristic of or the unemployment rate of this country is this, at the national level is this,
Yes.
or at regional level is this.
I was going to ask that because
Yes.
it's about confidentiality and some
Exactly.
sort of privacy is involved as well.
Exactly.
So I mean, what sort of information do they actually collect? I mean, from the people. It's good that you're trying to
again,
clarify
as
that.
I said, part of the data collection, especially this digital census we're moving in, as there are different levels of checks and balances.
Okay.
So my colleague, being the lead of this census data processing team, you will see that even the data monitors that were hired who are not members of this particular, members of the bureau, if they are looking at their regions, they are not seeing the bioinformation. The syntax is developed such that all those are dropped. You are only saying that numeration area A, a particular compound 1,
Okay.
there is a problem there because of there is an inconsistency, and when that is flagged, will be given to the district ICT officers, and these district ICT officers will go to the supervisor, and the supervisor will go to the numerator, tell that go to compound A. Let's say Q cell is compound 1.
Okay.
Go to Q cell. You said Q cell has this much, but this is not the case. The reason being, as I said, the cartographic work which was done prior to the census is a baseline that we are banking on. Right now, the cartographic data says we have 2.8 million in the population. And when you go to the World Pop, you have 2.8 million. So meaning we have a data that at least near, even not, it's an estimate, but near perfection. So the census is going to validate the cartographic.
Yes, and because I'll bring in Mr. Mane here, because it's good you raise the issue. People always question the issue of how reliable or trustworthy some of these statistics are. I mean, some experts will say, I mean, there's that major problem with how statistics is being collected in Africa. But once again, sometimes they tend to mislead. I mean, the world with poor numbers. Do you agree? Do you agree? Yes or no? Or Mr. Pade will come in?
No, I disagree.
Okay.
The reason being, you have to understand what we call the metadata and what is the data, what is it collected for. and what is the definition of those indicators or that information you are reporting. And this is why part of the user, user forum, or there's something like the users, data users. We create a platform, a training, even at the national level, to train them how to use the data and how to do the reporting. Even I remember there was a time the media houses were invited at the bureau so that they understand how this data, how to interpret the data, not only look at the figure, but in relation to the definition. So if I say 36, as my brother said, 36% of Gambians are this. So what is that 36? So when he said that employment, when he was mentioning that LU, you mentioned those ones, you start to understand what that means. So definitely, sometimes people should understand what do we mean by this before they just jump in and to say this is what is happening. Just to give you a simple example of this, when you look at the ethnicity group of this country, so you see that what are some of the questions that are asked there, unlike what was in the recruitment platform. You know, the language that you speak and the ethnicity, they are two sometimes similar, but I think there's a kind of difference in that. So what we're trying to tell people that the information that we are collecting, before this gets to that level, all stakeholders from the education, health, you name other, agriculture and others, all are invited and look at it and say, okay, we want this particular indicator to be collected or this particular thing to be. If you said we need indicator A, please define this indicator for us. This is why we have the statistical compendium. So the compendium has the concept and definition of all those indicators or those things that we collected.
And for you, Mr. Mane, how has been the experience for you working on census? Okay,
for me, I think this is the first time. I was a numerator in 2013 census, but that one was a paper-based census. But this one is a digital census.
So how has it been experience? I mean, because you are
migrating
now, from the paper to digital. So
yeah, the paper base was very tedious.
Okay,
it was tedious. But for this one, digital census, we use the tablet to collect information. On the tablet, we have applications which we install on the applications on the tablets, and then we use the application to collect the data. So just like once the census is done, like maybe on the 14th of June.
Okay.
That very day, we can just download the data and give it to statistician for them to analyze it. But likewise, 2013 census, paper-based, they after completion of the collection of the data, they have to hire like data entry class for those people to enter all those how to collect information into the system, and that it takes time. But for this one, immediately, even that very day, like on the 14th, we can just. For us, the IT team, we can just download the data and give it to the statistician for them to just analyze the data.
So Mr. Bite, what features make for a good quality data? What do you look at? What are the features that will tell you, yes, this is a good quality data?
So there is a lot of things that goes to having a good quality data. And it starts at the very beginning from what he said, engaging the stakeholders. Knowing what they need and defining the indicators that we are interested in. So once that is done, then we go to the next stage of designing the questionnaires, right? Having specific definition for these particular indicators and knowing what our interest is. Then from there, we go to the field work where data is collected, but whilst data is being collected, there is a team that will work to ensure that the data collected is accurate, is complete, and is consistent, right? Because sometimes you go to a household and maybe they're not interested in answering the questions you're given. Exactly. But by answering the questions the way they're structured, sometimes we can easily detect that there is a problem here. And with that, we can easily identify where the problem is and get back to the enumerators to tell them, you have to go back to household X or household Y, because there is a problem here, there is no consistency, or the information given do not seem accurate, and please go back to get that information. And for the population housing census, we have a team of, like he said earlier, data monitors that are going to be monitoring the data that is coming in from the field every single day, right? So to ensure that we receive accurate, complete, and consistent data. So after this, when this is all done, after the 3 weeks exercise of the population and housing census, then we do what we call a cleaning. right? Go through the data, they do a complete cleaning of the data, because there are things that we'll have to work on to see, to check for some other inconsistencies that we were not able to do during the actual exercise. So when this is done, then we can work on the analysis. Otherwise, when you just take the data the way it is from the field, try to analyze it, some of the things will not make sense. That is why everywhere around the world, before you do the analysis, then you take some time to make sure you go through the data, clean the data to ensure it's usable.
But Mr. Mane, in a country like the Gambia, for instance, where we have this, there's this lack of street names. How is this in any way affecting your data collection?
Okay,
yes.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think the Ministry of Digital Economy started using this Google addressing system. But I don't think that is enough, as you said. This is why during the cartographic data collection, we try to see how best we can collect some information about the areas.
Okay.
Let's say when you collect in the data, if you collect this particular structure, at least the respondent, you ask the respondent, how is this area called? So you put the name of that area also.
Okay.
Maybe with time, the municipality, including with the local government authorities, most particularly Department of Lands and Survey, may come up and say, okay, you have collected information around these areas.
Okay.
Will we not be able to use this thing and try to get something like doing street naming and the street numbering? But all goes with its pros and cons. But nonetheless, if I would just want to highlight a little bit on the data quality part of the thing, because unlike the PAPI, this questionnaire is designed, has its own skips and skip patterns.
Okay.
So, but nonetheless, you see some people may not observe those skip patterns. But the logical consistency in the CAPI, so at least will tell you if I am 17 years old or if I am 12 years old or 10 years old, that means the mortality, so the fertility questions will not be asked. So therefore, those people who are below that particular age group, so you don't expect to get information about those people in that particular module.
So let's just clear this thing. For example, if you go into Baro Kunda or Dabo Kunda, who do you ask the question? Is it just the compound head or anyone in that compound? Just for us to be specific.
So when you go to a household, right? So the information is asked to the household head or the individual who is most knowledgeable about the household. So, but there are cases wherein there are particular questions he or she cannot answer.
Okay.
Then we involve the individual who we're talking about, because sometimes the interview is not just at household level, but also at individual level. So if the household head cannot answer, he or she can just call the individual responsible and we'll ask.
And now in the event you go to a compound, for example, you go to Baksen or Yusufa Toure, and then he's a compound head, he's away to work. I mean, how will this affect your work as well? Perhaps there's no one there who will provide that information.
Yeah, so
sometimes this could be a challenge. For example, if you go to provinces right now, perhaps they wouldn't even sit to wait for your personnel to be there to ask those questions.
Yeah, so the work is
this could be frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, it is frustrating.
Yeah.
So just as my colleague Lamin, in the 2013 Population and Housing Census, I also took part. Then I was not a staff of GVOS, but I was at Banjul. So some of the houses that were under my area, I couldn't find the people that worked
anyone there, in fact.
So I asked around. So when I asked around, they said, you should come here, example, on Sunday, and come after this particular time. Okay. And for some of the other places, so they will tell you it's advisable to come here after 8, for example. Then you have to go. So there are rare cases. You go there at that time, conduct the interview, but you'll have to call them, fix an appointment. So if you fix an appointment with them, then you'll be fine. So when you go there for the interview, you'll easily conduct the interview. So this is one of the challenges that we face. But
in the event you go to a compound, and like I said, the census is from the 25th to the 14th of June, if I'm right. I mean, what will you suggest to those who will be going out in the field to collect this data? You go to a compound and you meet no one there. Do you have to come back again and say, okay, is Mr. X back or not? We are constrained time here.
Yeah,
and will this also affect the data as well, because we're talking about the reliability and how credible this data is.
Can I comment?
Yes.
So
Any one of you can comment.
It all has to do with the advocacy and publicity.
Yes.
Because the law of the land said, for a surveyor, you have the choice to say, I will not respond to survey questions. But for census, it's mandatory for each and every individual living in this country during the census time frame, at least to respond to these questions. One of the methodologies we're trying to embark on is this: try to go to the community leaders, the imams, the priest, or the community leaders, including the ward councillors, district heads, all the levels up to the presidency, at least to spread the information that we come to embark on this national exercise, and we asking for each and every one of you to comply and at least give this data, because this data is going to be used for policy. And if garbage in, garbage out, if we are giving the wrong information in the next 10 years to come, that means some of our plans, not all, but some of our plans will be on the wrong track.
But you have 4 days to do that.
No, because you have what is a housing. The first 7 days is for listing.
Okay.
You're going to list all the structures within the set numeration area, let's say 1 block.
Okay.
One person is only responsible for that area. And what we call the callback. If I come to Mr. Caesar's house, I knock and they say, Mr. Caesar is not here, you ask the neighbor, what time can we meet Mr. Caesar? And they will give. Sometimes you even have to drop a card or drop your number there so that when Mr. Caesar comes, Mr. Caesar can tell you, come to my place so time, you will meet me there. So within the 7 days, you are not interviewing, but what you are doing, you are establishing to know the number of structures and the housing and housing characteristics in the 7th day. So comes the census night, you start the actual numeration. So with that also, sometimes you do the callbacks, because I may come here, I meet Mr. Cisse here, Mr. Cisse is busy doing some other things. I may start at some point, I partially save my records, and then ask you, okay, I'll come back, because looking at the mood and what the Mr. Cisse is, if you want to continue, the information you're going to get will not be reliable. So you can say, okay, Mr. Cisse, it seems you are busy doing some other things. Can we reschedule? Can I come back another time? So with that, Mr. Cisse will say, oh, comfortably, you can come, let's say 7 o'clock. So that's the time maybe Mr. Cisse will be at a best time to collect information. So then I move to the next compound. I have already partially saved this. And what happens, as you are collecting the data, if it is partially saved, the color of that particular structure changes to another color to indicate that this particular structure is started, but is yet to be completed. So once it is completed, the color will turn to another color, the color will change to fully completed and those that are not started. And those people who are observing the dashboard also try to see that, oh, this particular area, we have 25 structures, but this guy is trailing behind. Okay. This is what we have, the workload management. Okay. So whenever the people, the data processing teams see that but this particular guy will not be able to finish, then they will call the floating population guys to come and support. So he will assign some of those structures to this person. I know
we're running out of time. I would just like to know, can we say, Mr. Mane, as we speak, everything is in place? There is no issues regarding those who will be going to the field. Sometimes we have this issue of payment here and there. Sometimes it tends to bring about so many issues. Can we say everything is set?
Yes.
There will be no issue regarding payments or whatsoever, because I understand there's even issue of taxation as well from their payments. But are all those issues sorted out as we speak?
When it comes to the taxation, I think that's the law of the land.
Exactly.
So
10%.
10%.
Yeah. I know the Commissioner General of GRA will love to hear this. That's taxation.
That's the law of the land, yes, isn't it? Yeah. So now that's not a big problem. Okay. As far as the HISWACA project, that means harmonizing and improving statistics in West and Central Africa, the World Bank project, is the one that is funding this data collection payments. So all what is important, if there is a delay, that means the delay will come from collecting the information, the mode of payment. Because we're trying to say the mode of payment is going to be mobile, either going to be Wave, Q Money, the NAFA, and you name them. So you give them options, which of the payment modes do they want to go by. So these are the things that, I don't know the contracts.
And they are all informed and they know this is going to happen.
Yes.
Yes.
So if there is a delay.
There's a signed contract?
Yes, of course.
Okay. because it's important. It's about money and, just to avoid issues after the census, people coming out saying, our money was deducted here and there. So this is why this is the more reason I'm asking this question.
Can I come to the signed
Yes,
contracts?
because we're running out of time, but we have a minute to go, please.
The signed contracts, we're making it digital. As I speak, some of the contracts are yet to be signed, because once it's going to be signed, they send digitally, and they will sign and accept when they read all the and send it back to the project, and it's the project that is going to affect those conditions. You read the terms and conditions, and then if you accept it, you go by.
Mr. Betty, it seems you want to say something quickly.
Yeah, no, he's already said what I was going to say. Just one more.
Okay.
Right. So I think it's important to say to the public. So sometimes when you go to certain households for surveys, right, they tend to overestimate their numbers.
Yeah.
Right? This affects the statistics.
Okay.
So we want to tell them that the purpose of the census is to count the number of people that are living in the Gambia, and to help with some to help in terms of planning and development.
Okay.
But it's not there to say by increasing the number of people in your household is going to help you get more benefits.
Yes, no, it's not as if they're bringing COVID support, huh?
Yes.
I'm like young guy at your jawline. Yes, Mr. Man.
Yeah,
finally, Mr. Man, in just 10 seconds, please.
10 seconds. Okay, what I just want to say is, digital census is difficult and it's expensive. And then we are collecting sensitive information.
Okay.
This is why we implement the robust security systems to at least protect this data, because it's our obligation to protect this data.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Lamin Mane, System Administrator. Alaji Fane, Head of GIS and ICT, thank you so much for coming on the program. And of course, Mohamed Bitey, who is a statistician and Head of Data Processing Team from the Gambia Bureau of Statistics. Gentlemen, it was good to have you on the program. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this week's edition of the State of Affairs program. I was your host, Ali Usisi, on behalf of the production team and everyone here at QTV. We thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. See you next week.